Hi and welcome. It's Lucy here from Inclusive Change at Work. Our community interest company today is talking all about the Castle Conference and digital wellbeing for young people. The Castle Conference is going to be happening in Bristol at Lee Court on the 25th of April 2024. If you're listening after that, well, you can't come because it's already happened. But today I'm going to be talking to one of our exhibitors, which is Sarah Ambe from Elbra Cares. I'm going to introduce Sarah in a quick second. So, hello, Sarah. How are you doing?
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me, Lucy. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
You are very, very welcome. I'm super excited to talk to you today. We met a couple of months ago, I think, through some mutual contacts, and you're going to be at our conference. So joining us at the conference. Before then, tell us a bit about you and your organisation.
Yeah, I'm head of strategic partnerships for Elbra Care Services, which is an organisation that's been set up to primarily support children, young people, and adults with complex mental health and learning disabilities, and sometimes that overlaps, as we know. And my background is actually a parent carer too. I've got children with autism, I've got a son with Down syndrome, so I've lived this life. So I want to make a real difference to the people that we support, that they should also receive the best quality care and live their best lives in the community.
So passionate. When we've spoken before, I can tell there's so much passion from you about what you do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've seen care done badly. I've seen care companies that just want to make money, and that's not what Elbra stands for. Our values are very much around compassion and community, because that's where the magic happens. That's where you see a journey to wellness, not stuck in a hospital bed.
There's quite a lot in the news about those kinds of situations and those kinds of environments, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. And transforming care, well, I don't think we're there yet, but when you have got hospital discharges, we're there ready to make a difference. And we often look after people who are in crisis, people who've had significant traumas, childhood ACEs. And we might have a bumpy road in the beginning, but when we've had people in the long term, we start seeing them turn a corner, and those incidences and behaviours start to stabilise.
Just let me ask you a quick question. You mentioned an acronym there, ACEs, childhood ACEs. What's
Yeah,
that?
adverse childhood experiences. So, if a child suffered abuse, trauma, neglect, things that have happened to them in the past, we know the early years are so important. And, that's a terminology that we use if there's been those kind of the history. And quite often when I read, back case notes, those are the things that have happened to that individual, sadly.
And are there more and more instances of this? Are you seeing a higher rate of these childhood ACEs?
Yes, definitely. The demand is there because of those reasons. And those children actually are hugely at risk of child exploitation. We've got children that both sexual exploitation, county lines. Those are some of the young people that, we do have come across our desk.
That is incredibly special work, and I feel privileged to have been introduced to you and have a chance to be able to work with you. So you're going to be exhibiting at the conference. Exciting. Why is this important to you?
I think because we have young people that have experienced those issues, and I think it's about commissioners and social workers or anybody who's coming to know that we're out there as a solution for some of these issues, and that how we can solve them together. But I think as well for our staff to understand a lot more. I want to learn more myself about these issues, because we've had young people that have been so close to being abducted due to, online exploitation. We've got young people that we've been able to work with to save them from county lines and get them away from those lifestyles. So, you know, digital safety as a parent as well is so important for all of us to understand more about it. I think there's a lot of ignorance out there. So I think anybody who's a keen learner should be there. And that's why Elborough wants to partner with Inclusive Change.
Absolutely amazing. And I'm looking forward to introducing you to Digital Safety, who's our strategic partner in this. So Digital Safety, the community interest company based up in the Northeast, but they are supporting us down and working with us down in the Southwest. And I can't wait to introduce you to some of the team there. I've got a little question to kind of delve a bit deeper, if that's okay, in terms of county lines. How have you, what kinds of things have you been able to do to support young people to get out of county lines? And explain a little bit about what county lines is, if you can.
Well, county lines is where young people are incredibly vulnerable to being exploited to take drugs from one area to another, or be exploited, you know, to get money, to do some of those illegal activities. And yeah, they just seem to be more and more prevalent.
And what have you been able to do to support young people to move away from it and to help them?
I think in those really extreme cases, it's about containment. And even though we don't want to restrict people's liberty, we have in those cases put a DOLS in place, working with the local authority, deprivation of liberty
Thank you.
safeguards, to really keep them safe and contained, so they're not able, you know, in certain cases we've had to take telephones as part of the corporate parenting that we're doing. If they're a child in care and they're vulnerable, you know, we get a lot of kickback from those young people that they don't want to be giving up their phones, you know, or we also get kickback on, you know, them being contained in the first place, especially if they're used to running away in their fight or flight responses. So yeah, it's about containment really. And actually we've seen that change in the fact that they don't have access to those risky lifestyles anymore. And actually, by the time one of our young people have had their telephony restored, they don't want to be part of that anymore.
That's incredible. That's that's change, isn't it? And it is really hard for a young person to give up their phone. Very, very hard.
It's like chopping off your arm. I think I wouldn't like that either. I like my phone.
I do too. So I talk a lot about neurodiversity. This isn't one of the questions I had written down, but I'm just going to touch on it a bit. Are you working with clients, for instance, who are neurodivergent? Maybe clients who are autistic, have ADHD, Tourette's. Are those the kind of clients you work with?
Definitely. And they have a combination, you know, a comorbidity of those issues, and they've had trauma. So then it becomes quite a difficult mix. So yes, definitely. And we also have staff who are neurodiverse. So, you know, we are a really neurodiverse organisation, definitely.
That's incredible. I mean, I talk in my speech at the conference, you'll hear me talk about neurodiversity and digital safeguarding and those additional vulnerabilities that I think neurodivergent people have and perhaps aren't quite widely known yet, around things like addiction, around rejection sensitivity, around knowing boundaries. Are they some of the things that you come across in your work at Elbra Cares?
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes it's lack of awareness of what the dangers are. And I think we definitely need to do more work together on educating our young people on that. And I think as well that the frenemy thing as well. I think people that are very diverse don't always understand, in my own child as well, the frenemy thing, that people often want to exploit young people for, you know, financial or material gain. and that can be done through Facebook Messenger or other. I think it's moved away from that now, but I've seen that in reality and in action, and it's not very nice at all. So I think it's all about education, and I think parents and caregivers need to be more educated on this as well, because I think when a child's handed a phone when they're 12, 11, 12, when they start senior school, we don't always know what they're doing.
Absolutely not. I think it's an interesting conversation, because I'm seeing a lot online around delaying smartphones or banning social media for certain age groups. And I think from your point of view, you are that corporate parent, or you're that I can't remember the phrase that's used, but you take that role of a parent or as a carer, as an organization, and that must be really difficult for your staff to be able to make those decisions.
Yeah, I don't think we ever make those decisions in isolation, because it's definitely a multidisciplinary approach with the local authority, who are the corporate parent, but we are their agent, and
Thank you.
we're dealing with the day-to-day stuff, and they are dealing with the kickback of when those things are taken away, and how they manage that, and sometimes that can mean having to restrain somebody because they become violent and aggressive as a result of those things happening, and I've seen that happen.
I can also tell that you care incredibly, and as a parent and somebody who has grown up with a world of neurodivergence and a world of difference, you care about the outcomes and the way in which young people you work with are treated.
Yeah, I think there's that phrase about being more easily led if you're neurodivergent. You may not always question people's motives.
So I'm going to ask you another question. We'll move back on to the ones that I'd written. What are you hearing from parents? What are you hearing from young people, or maybe the local authorities that you work with? Is it all really that bad?
Well, when you think we deal with the most extreme cases, but then when you've got quite a few extreme cases, then you do think, oh my goodness, something is really wrong here and it needs addressing. So maybe the statistics and data that I get is quite skewed, as it's the extreme cases within a whole population. But overall, I think parents and caregivers are ignorant to, as I mentioned before, I think we need education, and knowledge is everything, isn't it?
Yeah, I think other people I've spoken to in these podcasts, I think Professor Peter Kowalek, he says we don't have a guidebook from our parents. Our older generation, older than us, can't help us and teach us how to do this because it hasn't existed before.
No, and my children are digital natives. I wasn't. I think I was 29 when I got my first PC. And, I think I was 25 when we first got email at work. So, I still, and there's certain things that I have to be taught still, but, and I think I'm fairly digital savvy, but there's still so much to learn, and there's things that I have no clue about, and some things I'm quite happy that I don't.
I think I'm with you on that sometimes, and I learn new things all the time. And sometimes I go, oh, I wish I hadn't got involved. I wish actually somebody hadn't introduced me, or I hadn't found Candy Crush.
I'm a bit like that with Words with Friends. I love that game, and often spending my spare time playing silly games. But it's a good way to decompress, isn't it?
Sometimes it is, yes, absolutely.
The digital world can be incredibly powerful. It can be incredibly positive. It's not all bad, is it? I love keeping in contact with friends and family around the world, but it's because I know how to have safe boundaries.
Yeah, we're fortunate to have grown up in an era where we didn't have technology, so we experienced that world. Young people today haven't had that benefit.
Yes. Yeah, and I think, now you can think you know someone without actually having ever physically met. I think post-COVID, I had colleagues all over the place that I'd never met, but felt that I'd got to know them really well. So you can understand that dynamic.
Absolutely. I'm not going to shy away. Actually, I've met some really good friends online, and in fact have developed businesses with those really good friends.
Yeah. No, definitely. And so much can be gained from the online world. And it's a greener thing as well, that, one of the things we have to do as an organisation is become more environmentally sustainable. So a lot more meetings take place online because of the fact that we've got that technology, which is great. You're not spending hours and hours driving to and fro to meetings.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So on to my next question. What do you think we can do? What can we do to make change happen, or to support young people with their mental health in a digital world?
Again, I keep coming back to it, but education and knowledge is power, isn't it? And if we understand what we need to do as parents and caregivers and support workers, nurses, if we can identify when we think something is wrong, and prevention is also better than cure. So maybe schools need to do a bit more education in this. I know they do IT and safety, but maybe it needs to be, reviewed constantly, because the digital world is changing constantly, and the threats therefore must also be changing constantly. So how do we make sure that we keep our children up to date with that? And of course, we know young people like to have risky behaviours, so it's also about making sure that we monitor what they're doing, not in a big brother way, but just so that we are aware that we're keeping them safe.
I think that point of risky behaviors, that's probably something that as a teenager, that's natural. Risky behaviors are a part of growing up sometimes.
How we push our limits, but actually
Yeah,
I think a lot of today's teenagers are a lot more sensible than previous generations in some ways, but then in other ways maybe less street savvy.
that's really, really interesting. A really interesting theme to think upon there. But maybe with the digital world, those risky behaviors have greater and more damaging impacts, perhaps.
Yeah, and I think, is it keeping our young people in bedrooms when they should be out there actually having those face-to-face interactions in a safe way?
Mm.
Especially in the neurodivergent world, especially during COVID when we had to stay home, getting them back out again to, do healthy things, has also been very hard.
I remember COVID when it began. My eldest, she said, "Hang on a minute, I've got to stay in. I can't get within 2 meters of people. I can't engage and do any socializing. This is my dream."
Yeah. I remember when my daughter bought her first bus pass and it was on an app, and she said, "It's so great, I don't have to speak to the bus driver now and ask for a ticket."
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're gonna wrap up, but I wanted to ask if people want to get in touch with Elbra Care, how can they do that? Are you looking for, yeah, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, I think either through the conference, we'll have our stand there, but in the meantime, you can contact me, which is sarah.ambe@elbracares.co.uk. But we also have a referrals email, which is referrals@elbracares.co.uk. And if you look up our website, you can also get in touch with us that way. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, so we're quite digitally advanced, and
Wow.
we like to post things, and I'm sure we'll post lots at the conference as well. So it's only just the start of our partnership, but I'm looking forward to working with you guys.
I am so excited. I love talking to everybody, but your perspective has been quite a different perspective, and I think looking at things from that complex care and looking at it from not just a parental perspective, but the other things that you do has been fascinating. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's doing the right thing always, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, so we're going to wrap up. I'm going to say thank you for listening. Thank you for watching wherever you found us. Just to remind you that Inclusive Change at Work and Digital Safety will be hosting the Castle Conference, all about digital wellbeing for young people. That's going to be on the 25th of April 2024. And you can find out more information and book your tickets through our website, icaw-cic.com. But if you Google inclusive change or look for digital safety, CIC, you should find us online and you should find information about tickets. We'll put it in links in different places anyway. Looking forward to seeing Sarah and the team at our conference. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, and see you soon.
Yes.